Hi, episode 32 of Let's Talk Games video podcast thing that we do every week that you guys should be familiar with by now. We'll get straight into it. To your left, you have Dan. To your right,
Hi.
you have Jamie. And
No, you don't. It's
in the
an
middle,
illusion.
yeah, everything's illusion. The whole world is the universe, is a projection. And I'm in the middle, still the man in the middle forever. Uncle Chant, and you're staring at three beautiful gentlemen. And this week, we are going to do some conversational work on the games things that have been happening. But first, what we always start off with is a bit of fluffy stuff with what we've been playing during the week. Because, you know, it's nice to know what we've all been doing. So, Dan, we'll start with you. What have you been doing this week?
Well, this week, which started probably just after our podcast from last week, I have played Mafia Remake. I finished
Nice.
Mafia Remake very, very quickly. It only took me a day and a half or so. And I really enjoyed it. It's definitely, like, I think I mentioned during the week, like, Jamie, this definitely wouldn't be a game for you. Chunt, you might get behind it, but considering what you played this week, you'll probably get more enjoyment out of that game than this. But it's a good story. Even though it is a remake and they've done a lot to make it look better, obviously, I never played the original. It's weird. I'm going in this organizational thing of 2, then 3, then back to 1. But the story, the way you get missions is still stuck in like early 2000s. So a lot of the time, you know, in modern games, they figured out a way to give you story and a mission out of that story. Whereas this is early 2000s, like think Grand Theft Auto 3, which is like you start the mission, a little bit of talking, and then at the end it's like, go get this for me. And it's like, okay. And then that's how it is. It's not as natural as it is these days. So that was interesting to go through that. But the stories are good. I wish I actually had more time with a lot of the characters. Sarah, who is the wife in the game, spoilers. But there's these moments where you, like, she's really cool. Like, I really wanted to know more about her, but she's just barely in it. And then there are moments in like the life which seem really interesting that they just skip over. Like at one point, like you're dating, you're together, and then suddenly fast forward a few years, and then suddenly you're living not in an apartment like you were, but in a whole nother house. And you're like, it would have been really cool to like just slow down and take your time with those moments, like when they're first moving into the house. Because with Mafia stories, you know, they're always kind of going towards a certain point, you know, and it's never normally a good point. And it would have been cool to have some of those moments and moments of levity and things where you could just be with characters.
Yeah.
So it would have been cool if they got to add a little bit, but I understand necessarily why they didn't. And there's some really, really interesting tech going on in this game with the remake. What they've done from Mafia 3 to this remake. I think Digital Foundry even did a video on it in terms of the stuff they're trying to do. I will say though, the lighting in the game is still an issue, which was an issue in Mafia 3. Like there'd be times where you'd be driving down the road and the reflection from the sun and that would be so blinding that you couldn't actually see. It was like you're actually driving and just having sun in your eyes. And
Realism.
it still has that, but there's other things they're doing with lighting that, like the way it reflects off cars and things, looks really, really good. So I put my money where my mouth is. I bought the trilogy, and I really hope they make a Mafia 4 because there is something really special about the franchise where I could play so many of these games, and they're really creative with the stuff they try to do. It's one of those developers where I think that they have this ambition, and whether it's budgetary or if it's the talent, they can't quite reach the ambition, but they're trying, and that's what I really appreciate. But apart from that, I've been playing some more Madden this week alongside my brother. Well, not alongside. He's at his house, and we're just talking about our games. But yeah, that's about it for me.
Oh, that's good. I think you'll find there might be a Mafia 4, that definitive edition or whatever it is collection. Probably going to be a good test the waters to see who will actually pick it up. See if the fan base is still out there. But yeah, that's good. But Jamie, yourself, you've been doing much playing games?
Some video games, not an awful lot of video games. I played some of Shadow of War. That's the second one, right? Because it's on Game Pass, and I was like, I want to run around in an RPG. I'm bored of trying to do these games that I was talking about last week. It just wasn't working for me. Played a few hours of that. It's quite good. I think I will go back to it. I don't mind finishing that on Series X either, so it's not something that I'm trying to actively finish right now. I think it's a bit of a slow burn for me. I played some more FIFA 21. It's getting really annoying not being able to start an Ultimate Team because I'm waiting for Xbox, as I've outlined a bajillion times. I also already have the game on Xbox, and usually you can load up their web app and just do your Ultimate Team stuff in the web app, but for some reason it's not bringing up my Xbox persona. It'll let me start an Ultimate Team on PlayStation even though I'm not buying it there, so I don't get it. But yeah, it'd be nice to do that. But yeah, other than playing some Shadow of War, not a lot. I don't even think I've picked my Switch or anything up this week, so I've had quite a lax games week. I'm too busy watching TV. Really good show with Anna Kendrick in it called Love Life, and I love Anna Kendrick and everything and anything, and this show is quite funny. So yeah, we've been watching that this week. Taking up my video games time. I've tried to play Elder Scrolls Online about 4 times, and Game Pass, for whatever reason, just isn't enjoying it. It keeps disconnecting, keeps thinking that I'm not connected to an internet connection. I am. So I don't know what it's trying to do. I gave up on Wednesday. I just went, nah.
You tried.
Tried, failed, move on. What about you, kind chunt?
That's fair. Yeah, well, look, I think it's good to kind of have a break away from games now then if you've been smashing it, and there's more to life and other mediums that you can enjoy. But my main time sink this week was Yakuza 0. After years of putting it off, and after all the time that it's been sitting there on Game Pass, and it's a franchise I've always wanted to delve into. It just interested me, but it's always been locked, gate kept on the PlayStation consoles, out of my reach. Even when I did have a PlayStation, I never got them anyway. that's partly my fault. But anyway, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm so surprised by that game. I went in with very low expectations. I thought it was going to be one of those games where it's got that fan base that's fervent, but when you actually play it for yourself, you're like, what the fuck? Why? But at first I was like, ooh, this is a bit dated. It is like half what I expected it to be, but you get past that. There's a point where you just forget the jank and the basicness of it. It's a very basic game. You can bypass all the subsidiary stuff in the game. You can just plow through the story mode. I just played it on easy, and I didn't really need to bother with side missions to get money. They just throw money at you the whole game, so you can upgrade your stuff as you progress. But the story was what just pulled me in, and I was very much surprised by that. Because if the story was just your typical, just wacky Japanese, just whatever it is, I probably wouldn't have been as invested. But it's so melodramatic in some points. It's endearing, but for the most part, the characters are so memorable, and the intrigue was there. There's so many twists and turns, and it's so refreshing to play a whole game that in Japanese. Japanese voices, and you're reading the subtitles, and I think that was another big aspect of why it took me, because I'm so used to just playing your general Western stuff in English and American voices thrown at my face. It was nice to escape to another world, so to speak. But yeah, by the end of it, far out, I'm so invested in it. There's 2 more games on Game Pass that are available to us at the moment, and I hope the other 3 come out to Xbox eventually, because I'd hate to get to the 3rd game, or Kiwami 2, whatever it's called, and then be like, all right, now what? You've got the newest Yakuza game coming out day 1 or whatever for Series X, and that's not even, it's in the same world, but it's not part of the same mainline story. So anyway, whatever. I'm very keen to continue on with that. But yeah, and I just started ukulele today, finally getting to that as well. So 2 different ends of the spectrum. But yeah, I won't dwell too much on that. But anyone that's played Yakuza, leave a comment below because I want to know more. If you do recommend continuing it on, like, does it stay as good as that? I'm very interested to know. But
you and I, Chun, involved in our life of crime.
Yeah, yeah, yes.
I'm with the Italians, and you're over with the Japanese.
Oh man, I tell you, Makoto or whatever her name is, Makoto. She's just adorable as fuck, and I want one. So I won't say anymore. But yeah, so we had a lot of stuff happening, a lot of small pockets of news and reveals and announcements and stuff happening the last week and a bit. So I guess we'll keep it general moving forward, but there are some key points to talk about. Mainline, the one that happened overnight was the, I think it was overnight, my reality of time and perception is gone. The PS5 user interface experience has finally been announced, and looks like the Russian leaks were true. So look, we'll go through our main impressions on it. I'll start with Dan because he's the PlayStation guy here. I'm interested to know like what you feel about what you saw. Like, how was it? What you imagined it to be? Does it seem like the natural evolution of the PS4 guide, whatever it is, or the cross guide thing that PlayStation has, and then the PS4 user interface? And does this feel like a natural progression, or to you, does it make sense as a PlayStation fan? Like, is this familiar to you? So I'll pass it off to you, Dan.
Yeah, I do think it feels like a natural progression. I mean, I wasn't in that crowd of people being like, show us the UI, because I was kind of sitting back and just thinking to myself, like, it'd kind of be a nice surprise if like you set up the machine and power on for the first time, and then it opens up and you're like, ooh, what are all these new stuff? And you just like flick through like you normally would. So I wasn't really in a rush, but yeah, I watched it this morning. I was like, yeah, it's just a natural progression of things that people use, not necessarily myself. But it was really funny. I mentioned to you guys, over the past 7 years, none of this stuff I would have really ever looked at, except maybe the feature that they show about being able to tell you how long like a thing has to take. Like if you want to complete this goal and it'll take roughly 10 minutes or something, I might use that. But it's really funny because this past like 2 weeks, I've been playing Madden with my brother, and because we're playing in a league together, it means like, so he'll play a game and he can force the advance, but otherwise he can't advance until I've played my game.
Oh.
So we're playing a game like each day, and he might message me and said, "Oh, I just played Kansas City," and I'm like, "All right, I'll play tonight or something," right? And then there have been times where we're both playing at the same time, and so we've just been on the phone with each other and literally describing like how we're going in our game. And so when the section comes up in the video and it shows the picture in picture, and I'm like, oh my God, if I had that right now, Ben and I could literally be playing Madden, and we could have the picture in picture of the other person's screen while we're playing Madden together. And I'm like, this would totally be useful right now. But
yeah,
within the last 7 years, wouldn't have used it ever. So it's interesting that there's actually a lot of things that they didn't touch upon. So I'm assuming they're going to have like these little video, like maybe two more before the console's released, to show like trophies and how that works, and maybe the media stuff, which they didn't touch upon today. So yeah, it was good. It was just an evolution, but it wasn't anything to get excited about.
Yeah, like I'll just throw my head in the ring. Like the Xbox UI got updated as well yesterday, the last couple of days on current consoles, which is basically what the Series X is going to look like, but it's still not finalized. Like there's another update to come November 10th, apparently, that adds a lot more features and stuff. So it's pretty interesting that, you know, how you always talk about when PlayStation do something, Microsoft or Xbox will drop a bit of news themselves. So it's like they knew, like, let's just push our update as it is out now, and then they're going to announce theirs. I know it's very funny. But Jamie, you've had a chance to look at that yet? Obviously, you've got the video playing there, but you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's a bit of a bigger leap than you both may be taking on. I think it's quite a radical improvement of PlayStation 4 interface. wasn't a huge fan of the PS4 interface. Wasn't that big of a fan of the PlayStation 3 one. I know everybody always, cries about how amazing the cross-media bar was there, but I didn't think it was that great. I think Microsoft usually get it right for me. That's not to say that this doesn't, swing for some people, but Microsoft, even in the 360 era, going right back to the blades, I think their user experience has always been really great. But to me, this looks like a radical improvement. I'm keen for it. I like the idea of being able to, pop up the things that say, yeah, this is the next thing you're going to do, and this is roughly how long it's going to take you. Or, like Dan, we were talking earlier about having almost built-in wiki guides like in the games, which if people can take use of that's going to be great. Like, how often do people get stuck? I think it's actually part of what's playing now, like showing someone how to do the next part of the game, and it's like, yeah, look, this is the next bit you have to do. So if you're struggling, like, imagine, way back when, I think the only thing I've ever used a guide for was like as a kid trying to finish Ocarina of Time. There was a couple of temples where I was just stuck and I had a physical game guide. This is the evolution of that for this generation of kids. Like, I think it's a great inclusion. And trophies, they obviously have the tracking progress there. Again, Chun, I think we agree on this. There's a certain number of things here that Xbox actually launched with the Xbox One and they got shat on. Yeah. And now that they're PlayStation features, they're the best thing since sliced bread. Like, it's like, come on, they had achievement tracking, they had picture-in-picture. Like, this was all stuff that was built into the Xbox One, and now it's like, oh, now Sony's doing it. It's don't get me wrong, the way they're doing it is more elegant. It's a much more, it's cleaner. The picture-in-picture design, moving it back and forth is great. I really like that. I'm hoping that not only does it factor, games, or if you're watching your friends play a game or something, or I hope it can be used with like YouTube and Twitch and Amazon Prime Video or whatever, so that you can keep a game on and then be watching or listening to a podcast or a show, or if there's a game of football on and playing a game of FIFA or something, although I won't be playing on PlayStation, but hypothetically, if you could have the game of football in the background and then be playing a game of football, like, it's just it's good user experience, it's good design, and I'm keen to see some more of it. I don't think we got to see anywhere near enough. We started to see things akin to quick resume, not that Sony have mentioned that at all, but it looks like maybe you can suspend at least the game you're playing, and hop right back in. So I'll be keen to see more of that kind of stuff going forward. And I think there's an element of their UI isn't completely locked yet either, as we said about Microsoft. So we'll see where they go. But I'm really happy with it. I can't wait to get my hands on it. It looks like the more fun console to play with at the moment than the Xbox does.
There's actually also a couple of things, like with the whole like giving hints and stuff. Like, it is a thing that kind of takes away wikis. I remember when I was playing Tell Me Why the other week, and there was that first puzzle that I messaged you guys about, and I'm like, I can't deal with this right now, so I just looked it up. Whereas if there's a hint thing there, and they can help me through it, I'm like, that's great. The only thing is how those things are put together and moderated. Is it something that's done from the developer level, or if it's someone at PlayStation that is hired to just play these games and just put together hints, or do they grab it from YouTube? Or I'm curious as to how it's taken advantage of, because unless there are developers supplying that information, I feel like there are some games that just have it, unless the PlayStation 5 is recording people's play and it's just updating through natural AI, which I don't know. So,
well, if you look at the footage there, you can see the icons next to the videos that you can choose have a PlayStation Plus symbol on them. So it looks like they might be actually like gated behind PS Plus subscriptions. Might be a way to kind of offset. I don't know. It might cost something to get people to make these. I don't know who they would allocate it to, but who knows if it's Sony themselves or the game developers. Obviously they'd have to pay someone to make all these little snippets, unless they're doing that.
They'd just hire a guides person, wouldn't they? Like,
someone's jobs or someone's job is going to get really hard really quickly.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, I think it's a good feature. Like this, like you guys have said, the amount of times I've been stuck on something. Like the tell me why example you had there. I brute forced that. I just kicked the door down. I didn't have time. Like I went through the book finding clues and shit. I had enough of it. Like fuck this. Just kicked the door down. And then afterwards, when I was finished doing the night session, then I went and just found the solution for it. I was like, I would never would have got that. That's just so dumb. It would have wasted so much time. But yeah, I think it's cool. Once you get out of the cards. Like I thought the cards thing that you initially see was it. I was like, whoa, what the hell? Like I didn't really like that at all if that was the main UI. But then when they go to the proper home screen, I was like, oh, this looks more like a PlayStation experience of kind of what I expected. But yeah, I'm not too sure. Like there's a lot of space on the screen and it's cool. You can see artwork and all that kind of stuff, but some of the icons are a bit small. That'd be my only real gripes. And to me, it doesn't seem very obvious on how to get around, but I like the PS3 cross guide from memory. I never really took to the PS4 UI much at all. To me, I find the UI user experience as a whole is a big part of the experience of the console, right? And for some reason, whatever Xbox is doing, like they just keep evolving it over time. It's had so many iterations on it, and whatever they do just seems to work for me. I don't know why that is. It's just real. It's just there, like it's basic and. It's not mucking around too much, but now it looks even more cleaner and crisper. But I can see the appeal. Like I was speaking to a couple of other mates who are just PlayStation players, and that's all they do, which is fine. And they're like, "Yeah, this is exactly kind of what I wanted and was hoping for." So they know who their player base is, and obviously it's appealing to them, and that's fine. The achievement or the trophy hunting aspect. The one thing I did like about it at first was like, "Hey, that's cool." You know, they're finally taking that feature, and I've actually used that a bit. On Xbox, where if I'm close, it'll tell you when you can look at your achievements on the game, it'll tell you like how close you are to getting some of them. And I have used it, and you can get like an overlay on screen, and it tells you like a counter or a meter and how close you are to getting it. And I have used that, but this one goes a bit further. We've got a resume option, or there's an option that can take you directly to that part of the game for that achievement. And I was like, wow, that's cool. Like, how do they work that if you haven't gotten to that part yet? Do you have to actually have made it or progressed it that far in the game to do that, or is it just going to like load you there? You know, regardless. I'm interested to know how that works.
I didn't pick up on that.
Yeah,
did they show that bit?
Yeah,
it's on the actual part where they're looking through the achievement progress list, and there's
this bit
an option. Yeah, around there somewhere.
Yeah, just before it takes you through the hints.
Yeah.
But the other thing, like. With that, I feel like that's really it's only going to apply to like PlayStation exclusive like titles. I don't think third parties like. Can you imagine trying to do that in like Valhalla?
Yeah,
and
that's
be
what
like,
I was thinking. Yeah,
here's a trophy, and it's like we're just going to bring you into this random part of a map, but I think either you have to go to that area or see this. It works for this because this is like a nice little platformer, and you can just go to different levels and different worlds and things.
Or like God of War, you know, it's like you get a trophy for defeating Boulder or whatever. You know, if you just go straight there and just beat him, and it's like halfway.
Maybe once you've gone through the game, when it opens up, and you know how some of those games, like The Last of Us, will give you like chapter select. They can be like, oh, well, you missed a shiny in this level, and then they can take you to that level straight away.
I'd be interested to see how much they use it. Like if it's like Jamie's example of FIFA. Like I assume there's a lot of trophies and achievements in that game that are like progressive based as far as like how many games you've played and certain scores or whatever that you have to make. And you know, you can't really just
ways you score specific goals.
Yeah,
something like that could work. It's like, score a free kick from 35 yards out, and you just get placed at 35 yards out and have to try and score it. Like, there's use cases across the board for it. Like that is quite game changing for me. I didn't realize they were doing that. That's cool. Like I like achievement hunting. Like, and again, I've always preferred Xbox's version because trophies just have never been the same as achievements to me. I think achievements have always done it properly. And it hits my dopamine receptors a lot better than the trophy stuff does. I know they're similar in the way it works, but when you see a physical number going up, I quite like that rather than just coloured trophies. which I know they've changed now recently with the score system, and it is better. You know, oh, that's a much bigger, shinier number. Now, how do I add to that? Like, I can see the appeal. Like,
Yes.
I like what they're doing there. But that's pretty cool. That might have just swayed me on a couple of games, depending on how it's used.
Feels like they're trying to help people through games, like to get people to continue to play games rather
It's
than
hand-holding, yeah.
like stop, like with the hinting or with the taking people straight to where like a trophy is. Like they're trying to keep people in the game for a longer period of time. So if people get stuck, they're helping them push through it. If they're trying to get a platinum or whatever, they're going to take them to where they can get their trophies so they can get the platinum. Like they're trying. It seems like these are things that are trying to keep people in games for longer.
Well, they've probably seen that the stats are showing that so many people, X amount of people, aren't getting X amount of trophies, and they're like, well, why? Or why aren't people going back for these? Like, why aren't people going back playing these games? You know, how do we incentivize them to keep playing these games if we just make it a bit easier for them, actually show them how to do it? You know, I understand. I think that's really cool, and yeah, like I did have a little scoff and a nose laugh of like, you know, Xbox 2013 would like to talk to you, PS5. You know, these features have been in there for a while, but that's, you know, just a fun little aside fanboy comment. But this user experience thing rolls into like how these two consoles, now that we've had a lot of stuff presented to us, we know what the Xbox is, we know what its user experience looks like. They've just updated it in the last couple of days, as I mentioned, and now we know what the teardown for PS5 is, and now their UI is, and we have more of an idea of what to expect for both. So I think like it's a good time to go, well, since we know a lot more than we did like a couple of months ago, is there anything left that kind of leaves you wanting, or are you kind of like, this is what I expected? Or is it just something extra that you would like hope to see that can add? Like I know what else you can't really say or dictate what they're going to do, but I'd be interested to know, like, is there just one little aspect that you'd like to see that you haven't seen yet? Or in the lead up to next gen and all the hype that's coming up, if there's something that hasn't been announced that you expected to be announced, what would that be? Jamie, I think I might start with you on that one. Like, is there something that would fill your gap between both of them? Like your whatever your preference is.
You can fill my gap.
Oh, awesome.
Whatever your preference.
Nice.
No, I think I've about seen enough of everything. It's almost to the point of I just want the machines now. You know, we've spoke a little bit about, obviously personally we have, I don't know if we've done it on the podcast, but like it's at the point of being boring now.
Yeah.
I'm done. I've seen enough. Like these things, I'm pleased that they've stopped this last month, both Sony and Microsoft, going, oh, we have an event coming up, we have this happening. Like that state of play, as far as I'm concerned, was just a stealth drop. Like nobody knew it was happening. It's just like, here's the UI. It's like, yes, that's good. That means that you spot it and you go, oh, or you share a link with us, Chunt, like you did. You're like, oh, this is up. And it's like, oh, cool, I'll sit and watch that. Like rather than this big build up to this massive letdown. I'd like to see some more games running on the PlayStation. Like actually physically running. Xbox, I think it's becoming really apparent that their library is looking very thin on launch day. All we're seeing is, yeah, back compat does this. It's like, that's great, back compat does that. But yeah, for someone like me who, you know, is waiting to play the majority of FIFA on Xbox, why have they not shown their next gen version, which is slated for launch day release? Like the next gen enhanced version will be there on launch day for both consoles, but we've seen nothing of it. Maybe that's because PlayStation have the marketing deal for that. Maybe they get to show it off, but you know what I mean? Something akin to that, to go, look, here's your enhanced version. We know that Destiny's enhanced version is not till December, so it's like, but do they feasibly have a build now that Xbox could sit and show off and go, this is what to expect this to look like on your Series X? Because the Yakuza stuff didn't impress me. Dirt 5 looks actually like it's struggling. It looks like it's having some problems. I mean, people are coming up with it, oh, this is impressive that it can even do this. It is, but you know, when Ryan McCaffrey of all people at IGN, you know, Mr. Xbox himself in the industry, is underwhelmed. I think that sits for where people like us need to have our expectations. At the moment, I'm actually more excited, I think, for the PlayStation. Like I said, I think it looks more fun to use. The user interface looks brand new. It'll be nice to learn that. There are exclusives coming out launch day, and yeah, we'll see. We'll see about the other stuff. I'm just overseeing things now, to be perfectly honest, mate. To answer your question, I think I've seen enough. Yeah, show me a PS5 game running on PS5 a little bit more, and I'll be happy. So one more thing from PlayStation. Microsoft, I'm happy for them just to go away now, to be perfectly honest, until the machine comes out. But yeah, maybe one more thing from PlayStation, one more state of play, kind of wrapping all these little bows up on top of the production, and then let's have them like 3 weeks, right?
Yeah, 100%. I was going to say we're just over 3 weeks ish at the moment, and myself, like, I can kind of agree with Mr. Ryan McCaffrey's sentiments, where it's like, yeah, these are next gen upgrades of current gen games, which is cool, whatever, but they're not made specifically for. So I personally would like to see an actual exclusive game for Xbox at launch. I'm not too like salty about it. I'm not paying a lot of money to be jumping in next gen. I'm not losing much out of it. Assassin's Creed Valhalla looks insane now based on that deep dive that they dropped the other night. Looks like it's a far more impressive game than when they originally showed it months ago. But yeah, I agree. Like, I think they just need to. I'm not going to say no to one more kind of announcement or reveal before launch. Not, I like the announcements or something, excited for the week or whatever. But PlayStation, I think they're finally. My main criticism was they're not talking, they're not showing, and now they're kind of finally starting to do it. Almost feels begrudgingly so. Like the teardown is like, all right, yeah, I mean, you could have done that at any point, but you're so close to launch. Okay, you're doing it now, cool. And this is the first time we're seeing the UI for it. Cool, all right. It just feels like they're just kind of let's just get some stuff out because people are getting annoyed. And I could feel for the Sony players if they are like they just want to know news. They've got all this Xbox news coming out all year, and then they want their own little box news. I get that. I think they're in a better position at launch, that's for sure. Like with some exclusives that you can go, all right, Ratchet and Clank for sure. That looks amazing. I wouldn't say no to that at all. That would be my one to jump into. And Miles Morales, man, that'd be the only other one. Like, I'm so jealous of that game. Like, I'm not like a massive Spider-Man fan, but I really enjoyed PS4 Spider-Man that I want to go back into that world, and it looks awesome. Like, and I'm a cat person as well, so I guess we can talk about the like Dan, you brought up the cat corner aspect of this gaming world that we're living in. We've got cats in bags with Spider-Man, spider cats, and then you've got Viking cats in Assassin's Creed Valhalla. And you've got Jeff Keighley sharing gameplay of 4K HDR original Xbox games with Blinks the Time Sweeper. Cats, they're a popular little creature. I must say, Dan, that Miles Morales footage of the cat, like, I don't know much about Miles Morales, but do you know anything about that? Is that an actual thing, or was that
not specific? I think it's a thing. I think it's like a New York thing about those bodega places that are on shop corners, and they just tend to have cats. It's actually interesting. I think in like Spider-Man Homecoming, they have exactly the same thing where Peter walks in to one of those places and there is a cat on the counter. Like, I think it's just a New York thing that you get if you live there. But
it's in a bag and it fights crime.
Well, that is not in the movie, and it was pretty.
Look at it! Like, what the fuck?
It also gives it like a little personality, like something that's a little different, but still part of the Spider-Man thing. I will say that we got the Medium release date this week for December 10th as well, so you'll have that soon after launch.
That's a good point. I totally forgot about that. I might feel obliged to play that.
But in terms of like what I want out of, I mean, everything at this point is they're pointing me towards that I'm going to be experiencing the same things as I have been, but better. So I'm like, okay. And then there was even a little article this week about NBA 2K about how they're taking advantage of the DualSense and the haptic triggers or haptic feedback and the triggers and everything. So when you're backing someone down, when you're in the post, if you're not as strong as the person defending you, it's going to have more resistance on the trigger. So it's going to be more of a strain to back them down. Or if you're really strong and the guy's really weak, it's really simple. And then if you're fatigued, the triggers will start to push back on you, like stuff like that. Where I'm like, all right, I'm interested. And people might say, well, you know, like who cares? But back in the day, if someone told you, oh, your controller's going to rumble when you hit someone or whatever, you're going to go, why does my controller need to rumble? But now it's just a
Couldn't be
thing.
without it. Yeah.
And so while it's not a lot, it doesn't add a lot. You don't know what effect it can have on you while you're playing the game, because then you might be playing. I might play 2K for, you know, for 6 months, and then play 2K on. If my brother wasn't getting one, I'd play 2K on a PlayStation 4 that doesn't have that stuff, and be like, oh, this is weird. Like there's something missing. So there's things like that where I'm curious to see what they do. Even when they're talking about the UI, the fact that there's a microphone built in and you can speak directly into it to dictate for certain things. Like there's just, I don't know, it's a little quality of life improvement that I'm excited to get my hands on. And Spider-Man, like I think I shared it with you guys on Twitter. There's like a comparison between Spider-Man PS4 getting out of one of those warehouses and the loading screen and then how long it takes, and then it cuts to the Miles Morales and he just zips out of a vent and he keeps going.
Yeah, he's rockets out of it. Yeah,
and I'm like, oh my god, like I just things awesome. Like that. Where I'm like, it saves me 25 seconds every time you do one of those things, and you know I'm going to go to every single warehouse anyway.
Yes.
So Spider-Man, I'm excited for. I've been waiting for 2K to get that, and then Cyberpunk, I'm really excited. Clearly, there's not going to be the PS5 update at launch, and I've been looking around trying to pre-order it, and I'm looking for like the PlayStation 5 version. But it seems more and more likely what they're going to say is just buy the PlayStation 4 version and then you'll get the update.
Wasn't that already a thing? I thought they already announced that if you bought the normal one, you get a free upgrade.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, but I thought I'd just be able to go out and buy the box set with a PlayStation 5 thing over the top and everything, which I still haven't seen. Like I've seen it for like Valhalla and pretty much all the other games, but there's no Cyberpunk with like a PlayStation 5 label and a box for it. So I'm curious as to what I do there, because I want to pre-order. I have the money to go just pre-order it. But
go on Twitter, Dan. Go on Twitter and be like, "Oi, I want this. Cyberpunk. Give it to me now. Cyberpunk. I want my PS5 box, motherfucker."
And then they release it the next day.
I don't think you will get that for a long, long time, because I think CD Projekt will. Well, we know they're crunching now to even get the current gen version finished.
So I think I'll just have to buy the PlayStation 4 version.
And then you'll just play that and then get the upgrade, as Chunt said. But even that, I wouldn't expect it anytime soon. I think you want to be looking Easter time. I think Series X will get their version first. They'll, because of the marketing deals and all that other stuff. I think that enhanced version will come to Xbox and then it'll come to PlayStation a few weeks or a month later or something. But
I think I saw the Q1 was the goal for the Series X upgrade.
Yeah, and so, Q1 is 4 months.
Launch window sounds right for that stuff. Isn't Witcher 3 going to have it at launch?
Well, have it on day one for Series X. Yeah, I don't know about the PlayStation version. I hadn't seen about that. I think they're both getting.
How can Witcher 3 be? How can Witcher 3 be already ready to go?
Because that's been finished for forever. Like, that's probably quite easy to tune as well.
That would be a whole new experience too. The loading times, all the graphical upgrades, and everything. It's a pretty old game now. Like not pretty old, but it's getting there.
Still stunning.
In 5 years, it still looks great. But like, I'm all for new experiences and whatever to come from games that have been old. And I still play old games. I'm not one of those people that say I don't buy a new box to play old games. But there's other new experiences that we can delve into. Like, I want to touch on just briefly because we've got something else to talk about before we wrap up. But the whole Game Pass conversation, we all know about it, and we all know the whole deal with Apple, and they won't put the app on their store because they want to be able to validate every game that's on the thing. They just don't want to let one app that has a doorway to multiple games. So Microsoft are like, all right, we're going to go the long way. And we're just going to build a browser-based system and just circumvent your whole bullshit. which I think is just a pretty that's a big dick move. It's pretty cool. And I saw a lot of conversation around the time when they started talking about that, of like PS4 and Xbox One have internet browsers in their consoles, and it's been a thing even the 360 and PS3 had. And obviously for the PC market, there's stuff there, for other people that might not have a PC capable of downloading stuff. At least their device can run the games on a browser. It's a very smart decision to make. But and then the conversation started going, well, what does PS5 have a browser? Like, we don't know that yet. Like, if they have a web browser on their console, does that mean you can, like, when it's live, does that mean you can go to a website, like Game Pass website or whatever, on your PS5 and play Xbox games that way? Like, people are saying, oh, you'll never see an app for Game Pass on a PlayStation console. It's like, well, what about just in a browser? That opens up a whole new ball game of, what the fuck do you do? Like, you can't just block. You can't just block a site, right? Like, can PlayStation go, no Xbox, we're going to just blacklist that URL on our servers or something? Well, that'd be a bit of a dick move. So I don't know if you guys have seen that going around, or if that occurred to you at all. But
I don't think that won't be the approach. The approach will be can't physically input anything.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, how is the controller then communicating with the website? They'll be able to block that somehow, and that'll be the dick move that they make. It is funny that could be the approach, but also you're forgetting that all of these browsers are built on different technology as well. Like, we don't know what the PlayStation 5's browser will run on. PlayStation's browsers have traditionally been quite shocking, actually.
Yeah.
Well, so because with the PlayStation 4 browser, for instance, it doesn't have Flash support.
Exactly.
So there are certain sites you just can't read properly because there's no Flash.
Flash is ancient though. Like, that's been replaced by HTML5 and other shit. Like, I don't think that'll be a problem. Like, there's ways to go around it. Like, whatever Stadia is doing definitely shows you that it's possible on almost any browser. But like, the conversation would be like, if they make it work across the board on multiple different browsers, every browser that's on these consoles is a kernel of one of them. It's a version of one of these, but they still adhere to the same language, like internet language encoding. So you'd have to imagine that it could be a possibility, but
that'd be your way of
Jamie.
trying it, wouldn't it? You'd go to Stadia's website on your Xbox or on your PlayStation and see if you can actually get in. It'd be interesting to see if it does work.
A funny, interesting prospect of like, well,
because I think I had one of my mates over one time, and he wanted to watch a particular anime, and it wasn't anywhere for us to watch. So we tried going on the browser, and I think can't remember which anime site it was. Anyway, and because of the media player that they had, it wouldn't play.
Right.
Just because of the browser. So
I think they'll find a way around it to not let it happen. Like, just somehow they'll find it, because that would be a joke. Like, the news articles would be hilarious to see the optics on that. But I mean, we don't even know if PS5 has a browser on it anyway. Like, they might even just drop that, because I'll admit I barely use mine. The browsers on 360 or Xbox One, rarely ever use them. And the only time I did is because there was some Xbox related system that forcibly opened the browser to authenticate something. So I wouldn't miss it. If there was no browsers on these next gen consoles, I wouldn't miss it at all. But I just thought it'd be a fun aside to bring up as a bit of a nose laugh.
Yeah.
But dumb questions.
Yeah, true. Yeah, just dumb people, right? Yeah. So we'll just wrap up with a bit of fluffy stuff, because I know, Dan, you like your fluffy stuff.
I love fluff.
Yeah, fuck yeah. And all over your face. So Night City Wire episode 4 dropped, and it was awesome. It just opened my mind to the game even further. Like, holy crap, how much more of this game we're going to see? Like, they keep bringing out stuff. Like the whole aspect of new Flash cars and like the neo marine type clothing and the style and the motorbikes and all this kind of stuff. So like just to start off with, the cars, man, like Keanu Reeves is in there and the Matrix, the whole guns, lots of guns. The first thing that came to mind was like cars, lots of cars,
Yeah.
so many different cars, man. Like the economy cars, executive, heavy duty, I'll probably just not even bother with. But the sport and the luxury cars, I'm like, oh, hot damn, get me all over that. Like I want to play that corporate level character and drive around in some friggin' Flash luxury car or executive car. Like, oh man, I'm so excited about it. So I think like you guys have seen that that whole Night City Wire episode 4. You guys watched it in full?
I didn't watch it in full. I caught the trailers that came out of it, so I watched the vehicles one and the styles one.
Style? Oh, good. So you've seen the touch points. Cool. Yeah. So I just thought it'd be funny to ask, like, we all have our set paths that we're going to do, right? Like, I think, Dan, you said you were Nomad, Jamie or the Street Kid or whatever, and I was going to do the corporate dude. Well, now we've got all 3 paths. I assume we can get access to all of these different cars and stuff. We can buy them or steal them, as well as the style and that kind of stuff. I guess just be a bit of fun to go, well, what would you take? Like if you got to your point in your game where you were able to open up the map and start stealing these cars or buying them or whatever, would you stick to your character style, like the world that you came from, that aesthetic, or would you kind of go, well, I started here, but I want to end this way? This is where my mind is going with this announcement, where you can go, it doesn't matter where you start with. You can start with nothing, like a poor nomad or street kid, but then end up looking like you've got the world at your feet and an executive car. So, Dan, I think because you wanted to bring up this particular topic of fluffiness, did you have a particular path that you're considering doing or aesthetic that you want to follow?
Well, so when I play these type of games, I always, as early as I possibly can, try and set my character to look up exactly how I want them to look and give them equipment that I will just use for the entire game. Now, not every game allows you to do that, but I'm going to try my hardest with this to pick the car, pick my outfit, and pretty much stay that way the entire time.
All right.
So if I can get like some like old school like economy car, like old school in terms of 2077. I think later on they show that Keanu Reeves' character has a 1977 Porsche.
Yep.
Which is a 100-year-old car now in the game. Yeah. But if I could find something like maybe like an old Dodge or something and have that as my car, because I am a nomad, so there's going to be all these old rust buckets out in the middle of nowhere. To have something like that. And then in terms of like the attire, I think it's the second one that they mentioned. I can't remember the names of any of these things.
Well, it's kitsch, and then there's entropism, and then there's
I think it's the entropism one where it's just like these guys are just relaxed and they just don't care. Yes. And they just wear whatever they want. That is going to be my chick. She's not going to care. She's going to have an old rust bucket, and we're going to take this city down. Nice.
Good. Oh, well, at least you know what you're doing. Jamie, have you have any thoughts on how you're going to tackle this?
Yeah, the cars and things never ever really interest me in games like this. I hate driving around in video games and real life.
I'm driving.
But yeah, I think that the style stuff though, that these distinct like kind of styles, I think there's a somewhere between the entropism and kitsch that would be quite sweet. But yeah, like Dan said, I love like the character reflecting how you want them to reflect in the world in these types of games. And the more and more we see of this, like it's basically friggin' Grand Theft Auto Night City, isn't it? Like that's the real impression that I'm getting. But yeah, like just watching like the different styles and aesthetics and everything. And this is the thing that's really, really getting me. Like, I want to play this with ray tracing, but I also want to play it on Xbox. So it's like, do I wait for months for that update to be out, or do I just play it on PC because it's their day one and it's cheaper actually considerably? It just looks unreal. Like they've nailed everything we've seen so far, and the styles, the aesthetics, I love it. The cars, I'll just try and get something super quick that'll get me from point A to B faster than a station wagon would. So yeah, give me Cyberpunk now. Like, I think there's kind of a, just sticking with the fluff. I know obviously we've all spoke about Cyberpunk, but have you guys looked at the dates that these things come out and how we're going to actually approach playing specific games and when you're going to look to play them? Because the dates are so close together.
Yeah.
I don't know if either of you have given it any kind of consideration, but I was thinking about this.
I have.
Yeah,
I absolutely have.
What's so? Yeah, well, there you go, Chun. I've given you a final topic to kind of wrap us up on. What's your approach? You start us off, mate.
Like, the only reason why I'll jump in early is because if you two start and I don't, then we can't really kind of do a video like this on like spoiler talk or whatever, or weekly episodes if we want to touch base on it. Otherwise, like, I'd much prefer to wait for the Series X patch so I can get like the full experience for it, because I'd hate to be like, I don't know, if I by then say Q1 April, let's just round it off to April, you got like 4 months of time that you could play it, and if you finish it in 4 months or less and then the patch comes out, like, I'll be less inclined to it's a huge game, like, why would I go back and restart my stuff? I'd want to get the whole experience straight off the bat, and I'll still probably be tied up with Valhalla at the time, I think, and whatever else comes out between now and then. But if you two end up playing it, then I'll be like, oh, all right, I'll roll in. And,
but there is also that, remember, mate, they're doing expansions. Cyberpunk's getting expansions, so the expansions, when you play through them, or if you enjoy it enough to play through them, you will get that next gen experience.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll converge at launch, and we'll all decide, are we all starting together or what?
Yeah, and figure it out.
Yeah. Dan, yourself, you're gonna wait, or are you just gonna drive in?
Well, I got backup plan. I got plan for every scenario. I am sorted. So the way that as I've said, when I go into these launches, 3 games is my max, because there's no point in getting more than 3 games, because I just never would play them all, and then there'd just be a game that sat there for the next 7 years. So what I've got is launch day. I have Spider-Man. Spider-Man will be a 10 to 15 hour game, easy, and that is a weekend. That's me telling the missus, saying, you by the way, I'm not available for any conversation. I will be playing Spider-Man. Thank you very much.
Nice.
So that'll be done in a couple of days, and then, because Cyberpunk doesn't come out to the 19th, I can then jump onto 2K, and I'll just be playing 2K as my regular daily dose of gaming, like I normally do, until that game comes out and I can play it. Now, if we want to hold off, I am happy to hold off, because 1, it'll be hopefully cheaper down the line, and 2, it might actually force me to either play games that I already have and that I need to beat, or the only other thing that I'm worried about is if I push Cyberpunk into next year, I'm actually not concerned. I'm curious about how many games are going to be coming out next year.
Yeah. And
how much in a quick succession. Like, I'm already thinking like, oh, when's Ratchet and Clank happening? And then, what about Arkham Knights? And then like stuff we haven't even heard about yet. And I wonder how much Q1, Q2 next year will start to really pile up. Like, I think Horizon is actually coming out sooner than maybe we think, because of the cross-gen portion of it. So that's my only concern about putting off Cyberpunk. And I've already said that I'm going to hold off on Valhalla until it's at a cheap price, just as a principal thing. So I have backups. I'm happy to wait if that's what we're going to do. But yeah, I'm definitely going to play Cyberpunk. Definitely.
Well, we're in 3 different parts on this. We're definitely going to have to converge and discuss.
I think Cyberpunk is. I'm trying to think of how things. It's just, we get screwed a little bit for that plan. That plan that Dan explained would have been fine should the PlayStation have come out on the 12th here, because launch day for Series X, it's like, yeah, very much Destiny, FIFA. That's my launch things for the Xbox. Play them for a few days, but they're games I play all year round. And then the 12th, it's like, right, cool, Spider-Man. Get through Spider-Man, maybe start Demon Souls. You know, I've got a week then until Cyberpunk would have come out, and then it's like, right, Cyberpunk. That's the next thing that now can carry me through to the next big game. Like you guys said, well, Chunt, I know you're jumping Valhalla in, but I'm not. I'm holding off for Valhalla. I had my fill with Odyssey, so it's like I'm happy to wait for when I want that kind of game, and then go, that's there ready for me to play. And like Dan said, it'll probably be cheaper. So yeah, it's just such a shame because the way that the timelines work, we don't get the PlayStation till the 19th, which is the launch date for Cyberpunk, and it's also meaning that, you know, all of those PlayStation exclusives are then there on that exact same day. So it's like tackling an approach, because I'm going to want to play Spider-Man like straight away. So how do you manage this? Why couldn't this have been structured better? Because at the minute I'm playing nothing. There's nothing I want to play. There's nothing that I'm like, I don't want to play anything. Other than Genshin Impact, I played more of that this week. I forgot that earlier. But there's nothing there that it's like, oh, I want to play this right now. Whereas something like Spider-Man, it'd be great to carry me through for the next 3 weeks until these consoles come out. But first world problems, boys? First world problems.
We'll figure it out. We will figure it out. This is the worst thing we've got to deal with in our lives. We're doing pretty good. So yes. Oh, that's good. Yeah, look, I'm really looking forward to it. I'm in two minds, as we mentioned before, but I think the game has enough length to it that we can kind of get away with it. Like, I don't think many people will be having such big discussions about the game for quite some time anyway. So it seems like it's going to be quite the lengthy experience. But speaking of lengthy experiences, this one can't be one. We're tapping out at an hour. We're wrapping up now. It's been a nice chat. Everybody involved. The three beautiful men that I mentioned at the top of the conversation. Just throwing out the positivity, you know, if you need one. If no one's told you you're beautiful today, I just told you. So we'll wrap it up now. My name's been Uncle Chunt. You've got Dan over there, and you've got Jamie over there. We're all on Twitter. Come follow us. You can see our tags at the bottom of our screens there. We're friendly people. We like to respond and chat and engage in the conversation. And until next week, look after yourselves. Don't do anything stupid. You know, love yourself and do all that stuff. Make yourself feel good.
Definitely wash your hands after you've loved yourself.
Yeah, exactly right. Cool. Righto, everybody. Toodle pip.